Hey, everybody, welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Yinzhers podcast on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. We are recording on September 12th. The Steelers played their first game of the regular season yesterday against the Cincinnati Bengals. Before we get into the details, let's just set the stage. Where were we? Where were all of us to watch this monstrosity? Morgan, where were you?
Well, I'm not allowed out in public with my fiance during Steelers games because I'm embarrassing, apparently. So I was at home on the couch. First half of the game, I'm like doing like jumps from my knees on the couch, and Jared's looking at me like, do I need to like check you in? Like, do we need a 5150? Like, what is wrong with you? And then half the time I'm screaming at the TV and he's looking at me like, Morgan, you are psychotic. And I'm like, and what? Do something.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
What's your point?
I have a ring on my finger. It's a little bit too late for this. So, yeah, at home, just minding my own business, my safe space.
Yeah. Sam, where were you?
I ended up in some random bar in Santa Monica. Only still fan in the bar. By the end of it, because the game never ended, everybody in that room, because it was a very small bar, very, very, very small. If you guys saw my video that I posted, like everyone was like, please, for the love of God, let this game end so this girl can leave.
So I hosted a party, a tailgate. I got up super early, smoked pork, pulled all the stops for the Steelers team who was unwilling to show me the same courtesy in the game. But I was at least at home, and I was surrounded by a group of people who shared the same level of enthusiasm about what was happening. And there was a lot of back and forth. And kind of like both of you said, there was a point where I was like, can this game just end? It needs to be over. I am so done. Because the Steelers did defeat the Bengals 23-20 in overtime after what, like 1,000 missed kicks. And Chris Boswell ended up being the deciding factor. He hit the game winner in the waning seconds of overtime. Just unbelievable what happened. The game had it all of the things that you don't want, but some of the things that you do want. The Steelers forced a ton of turnovers on the Bengals offense, missed kicks. Basically, the only thing that was missing was successful offense from the Steelers. There was just so much back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it just felt like the whole time I was watching, I just kept thinking, I need a group therapy session.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of what we all need, is a giant group therapy session. So why don't we dive in? Let's just get into it. So there were a lot of, at least in me, I noticed a lot of dysfunctional thought patterns. There was a lot of black and white thinking. The offense was shit. So the defense's success meant nothing. There was all or nothing thinking. If we can't blow out other teams, then we're failures. Lots of fortune telling. The offense couldn't score, so they never will. And then, of course, everything with TJ Watt's potential injury, which we found out within the last couple hours that there might be good news there.
Yeah.
Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, all kind of reporting maybe 6 weeks if it doesn't require surgery. So at least there's some good news there. Yeah. But a lot of other, just so much dysfunction in my brain. Like, Mitch looked completely lost behind that offensive line. So I was like, well, he's never going to be good. And the run game was a total wash because the offensive line was terrible. So, my God, like, where do you even start with any of that? Sam, like, what was the thing that had you most up in arms yesterday that you were like, we're never going to recover from this?
The line. the line.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, it's so bad. Like, no one's blocking Najee. Mitch has no chance at all. Like, yeah, he's mobile and he's moving, but he still can't even breathe. It's
Yeah.
like the defense does all this work, gets all these turnovers, and for what? For the offense
Hmm.
to go back out there and do absolutely nothing and just completely gas the defense over and over and over and over again.
Yep. Which is exactly like last year. It's like, what changed? What did anything change? The
Right.
play calling was kind of a circus. Like it was insane. Morgan, what were you thinking yesterday? Because it was just wild.
Well, the whole time, I mean, thank God we're in group therapy, because the whole time I'm like, I need to be treated for PTSD. I don't know what medications that includes, but like put me on all of them. Like I need to supplement this anxiety that I'm feeling, because it literally felt like PTSD. And it was a lot of the play calling, like
Mhm.
Sam said, a lot of the line. I was actually, you know what, like less than furious in their pass protection, but their run blocking it's just
Yeah.
non-existent. It
So
didn't
bad.
help that Najee really is not 100% from that Liz Frank that he suffered
Yeah.
in training camp. And so he was not explosive. And it just really didn't allow him time to, build a vision behind that team
Hmm.
with a lack of explosivity. Like there's just not, it wasn't meshing. There was
Yeah.
just nothing on offense that redeemed that side of the team. I mean, yes, we saw improvements from Chase Claypool, who looked really mature
Yeah.
and composed. We saw
Mhm.
Pat Fryermuth go off and go off. I use that term very loosely because he led our offense in catches and yards, 5 for 75. So like it's nothing to write home about, but like
Yeah.
that's going off. And I mean, yeah, he almost scored a touchdown that was potentially PI on Von Bell, but like we'll let it slide because the refs give it and the refs take it away yesterday. And that's exactly, the story of that entire game. But the entire time I'm just thinking, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, please
Yep.
do something, anything on offense.
Hmm.
Please, God, because there's no way that the defense would have suffered the injuries that they suffered yesterday if they weren't on the field as much as they were. And they were only
Yep.
on the field as much as they were and doing the prolific work that they were, reminding us all of 2008 like they were. If it weren't for the lack of time of possession, the
Mhm.
offense was just absolutely horrendous. One offensive touchdown, guys. One
Oh God, that's so
offensive
bad.
touchdown. A singular, let me say it again, offensive touchdown. That's not okay. That's never okay. Our games too often are in the hands or on the foot of Chris Boswell. And
Yep.
quite honestly, love Boz, but I'm sick of it. I'm sick
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
and I need something to change. This was supposed to be Big Ben's fault last year, right? Like
Hmm.
it was Seven's fault. Was it? Was
Right.
it Seven's fault? Because now we have a mobile quarterback who, quite honestly, like he's not a bad decision maker. We saw some veteran like composure out of him
Right.
yesterday. We really, really did, especially on that last big pass to Pat. We
Hmm.
saw some composure and some good decision making, but he overthrew George Pickens. And before that, he underthrew George Pickens. And I'm like, he's wide open for the touchdown. Like, you can't miss these passes. If you're supposed to come in and be the answer to a woeful offense led by Ben Roethlisberger, then you have to be the opposite of Ben Roethlisberger. And the
Mhm.
only thing I'm seeing is, okay, maybe you scramble a little bit, but like the point was Mitch can run. So let him fucking run. I don't understand. The check downs, I was having check down meltdown. I'm done.
Hmm.
I'm done with the offense. I can't do it.
Yeah, and there were moments, like there was one in particular where Mitch looked like he was just going to commit to running the ball, and then he held off and he
Yes.
waited and he hesitated, and then he was like, "Oh, is he going to throw it?" But he wasn't, and then he just kept kind of moving forward at a very glacial pace, and then dropped back. Like maybe he's going to throw. It was just like he didn't know how to function behind that line because the line wasn't doing anything for him. And it's just one of those things where people on, overreacting. Everybody was overreacting yesterday, myself included. And it just felt like you couldn't criticize one part of the offense without being ripped apart for neglecting to criticize another part of the offense. And yeah, Mitch was fine. He was fine.
He didn't turn it over, so that's...
Yeah, he didn't turn it over. That's okay. But he also, like, who's going to be comfortable behind that line? But he also contributed to the offense's lack of success. Like, he wasn't the sole reason and the sole purpose or whatever, like, the defining factor that was the offense. Like, but he wasn't all that great either. And I'm not saying Kenny Pickett would have done leaps and bounds better, but it's like, okay, these are the quarterbacks that you have. You've locked in at this point. Mitch is number 1, Kenny's number 2, Mason Rudolph is floating off into space doing who knows what. Like, yeah, and are you really gonna force them to go out there week after week after week behind this line? Where I saw a video today where Kevin Dotson just let a dude just blow right past him. Like, this is what they're giving you. Like, what?
How
you
do you
have to God
invest in that line? How do you not bring in the veterans that are needed on that line? I don't understand. Maybe if you thought it was all Big Ben, maybe, and you're like, oh, the offensive line is fine, but then the run game suffered last year, so you can't say it was just Big Ben. It was the offensive line, and it still is the offensive line, and maybe they're not as bad, but they're still not good, and not as bad is no redeeming quality whatsoever because they were by far the worst in the league last year. I mean, it's astounding that you can get within the 5-yard line and you are first and goal and you kick a fucking field goal. It's unacceptable. I'm done. The Bengals did it, and we saw them try from within the 5 or 10 like 20 different times because of all these penalties and all of the refs, doing whatever the fuck they were doing. But like, the Bengals offense looked like trash in that first half, and they were up against our defense. We were playing against the Bengals defense, which is nothing to write home about again, and we couldn't score from within the 5. Guys, I can't. I'm shaking.
Something too yesterday, I was like, makes zero sense. Like, we kept Kendrick Green to have him inactive. Like there's just so many things where I'm just like, why? Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't think that he has a place on that line. He hasn't showed us that. But again, you kept him on the roster.
Yeah. To make taking up valuable space. Like,
it's just, it's exhausting.
Like, it really is. And it's just super confusing because, like, you know what? Let's just get right into it. Let's talk about gaslighting, because that's another fundamental of the Steelers team and the experience of being a Steelers fan. Because first of all, you obviously none of us expect Mike Tomlin or the coaching staff or ownership to go out and say, our line is garbage. We hate them. We don't like what they're doing. They're not going to get better ever. That's that. They're not going to say that. But when they come out like Matt Canada and Mike Tomlin, and they're like spewing the praises of this offensive line, we believe that these guys have what it takes. Okay, is that what you're saying to them in the locker room? Because they're not doing well. Like, there's a certain level of effort that isn't even visible for some of these guys. It's just like, okay, the ball has been snapped, and I guess that's that for me. My effort is done. Like, there's that, which is so confusing. And then all of these people, mostly on social media, who are saying a win is a win, just be happy they won. Sure, okay, maybe you can say a win is a win in the Super Bowl. You could even get away with saying a win is a win in the playoffs. But in week 1, the way that things went down, that is not an acceptable response to what we witnessed yesterday. Because I was watching football highlights all morning, and all of the analysts weren't saying, wow, the Steelers pulled out a win in Cincinnati against the reigning AFC champions. That's not what they were saying. They were saying, wow, the Bengals, despite all these turnovers, despite the way that they played in the first half, they forced this game into overtime. That's what's impressive about it. Mm-hmm. They're not talking about the Steelers like the defense was great, but they got gassed because the offense was garbage. The Steelers winning yesterday, we're recording on Monday, that was a fluke to people. Mm-hmm. And it's just another one of those things where it's like, watching that didn't feel good to me. Again, the whole time, overtime, I was like, please just, God, let it be over. Even if we lose, even if we tie, yes, let it be over. Like, oh my God, did it feel good to you? Did it feel like it was a warranted victory? Like, my God, Morgan, what were you feeling yesterday?
No, the whole time it was like living in misery. You're watching this game and you're like, make the bleeding stop. Like, I just want it to be over. I just want the game to be over. And then we're watching our guys go down. Najee, TJ, Cam at the end of the game, Levi Wallace, Mason Cole.
Yeah.
We're losing guys left and right. And it's just like, is it worth it? Like, is it worth it? I don't know. And I left that game yesterday and I looked at Jared. I was like, listen, I have never felt so defeated after a win. And I know that, we saw videos of them celebrating and they were in high spirits. And like, that's great because number one, the defense deserved to celebrate that win. They earned that win with every ounce of anything in their body. They earned that win. 7 sacks, 4 picks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. And that's not by like 2 or 3 guys. That was around the defense. Robert Spillane had a sack. Okay. Yeah. Arthur Millette had a sack. Cam Sutton, Nicola Witherspoon, TJ, Minka, pick 6. The fumble recovery that was arguably a pick. Him. Like, Minka had the game of his life. Of his fucking life. The exclamation point on the Dolphins got fleeced. And the exclamation point was yesterday's game because Minka was lights out. And I'm so sick of people saying Minka shies away from contact and Minka didn't show up last year. Minka led the team in tackles last year. That's something a safety should never have to do. If you don't understand why he had to step up and make up and compensate for the lack of run defense, and he's the first defender touching a runner, not okay. This year, the defense looks so much better in run defense and all over. Like, they look so much more
composed.
Yeah, they look a lot
composed, powerful. The secondary looks strong and they're nasty and they're like running around doing their thing.
Cam Sutton,
the growth of that I've seen when he was covering slot receivers to moving to the outside, the growth that I've seen in Cam Sutton and Akella Witherspoon and his composure in the end zone, Levi Wallace saving that touchdown. I swear to God, that entire defense, Devin Bush. Can we talk about Devin Bush? Because holy shit, he has taken so much crap for the past year and a half about how he's given up, doesn't love the game. He's not the same after his injury. He had such a good game yesterday. Watching him fly around the field, make plays. He should have had a sack, but he ran into Alex Highsmith, but he should have had a sack. Alex Highsmith, holy shit, 3 sacks. Like, the defense balled out, and they earned that win, and the win is the defenses and the defenses alone. And maybe Dejan Johnson's because that catch, holy shit.
Yeah. And sort of Chris Boswell a little bit, but that
Yes.
talk about
Yeah.
PTSD, that doink. I
Oh
heard it
my
in my
God.
dreams last night. And the fact that they kept playing it
I
Oh
know.
my God.
with the sound,
I
like,
know.
my
But then
God.
you're watching TV today, and everyone, like Jordan said, is giving the Bengals all the credit in the world for
Mhm.
coming back after 5 turnovers, and how incredible and composed Joe Burrow was in that second half. And yes, that is all true. That's all true.
Mhm.
We were not supposed to go in and win that game.
No.
No one picked us. Steelers fans didn't expect us to go in and win that game. We did. So, yes, that's a wonderful, amazing thing. No one's talking about Deontay Johnson's catch.
Mm-mm.
No one's talking about that. And it's the best catch he has ever made. It's his career catch to date. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about how great the defense was because it's overshadowed by the pathetic performance by the offense. Matt Canada's just inexcusable play calling, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And the injuries suffered on that line. I'm on the defense. I swear to God, the TJ Watt news, if I hear something about TJ Watt one more time that's not definitive and it's not news and it's everyone just talking about how the Steelers season is over, I'm going to punch someone in the face.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It's so absurd. And everybody's speculating because they, outside of Pittsburgh especially, the only thing that people see on the Steelers team is TJ Watt. They think that he's it for us. And they're kind of like, I've seen Bengals fans tweeting about how they're glad he got hurt.
Oh,
And they're hopeful that
everyone is.
There was
it's
someone yesterday
sickening.
that responded to Sam Highsmith, Alex Highsmith's dad, and saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm so glad that Alex is actually doing something without his big uncle TJ."
Finally stepped up. That's what they said.
Actually ever watched Alex Highsmith play football?
No, the answer is no.
Yes, Alex and TJ feed off of each other, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Same as two, right, but Alex is
that's the whole point.
That's exactly, Jordan. It's the whole point, and it's frustrating because, like y'all said, the tweets about TJ, I mean, okay, we saw Joe Burrow play with a different mojo once TJ was gone. We did see that. There is no denying that. There is no replacement for TJ Watt in this league. No one is coming in and having the TJ Watt effect. It's not happening. So whether we go out and sign somebody, and whether it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or the entire season, it is a monumental loss. Does that mean that the defense is going to be dropping to mid to low tier in the league? I don't think so. I think the rest of this defense is extremely good at what they do. And attrition is inevitable. It happens on every team. We saw the Ravens suffer from it prolifically last year. I pray to God that we don't have that same issue this year. I pray to God that the reason TJ is getting the second and third opinion is because they think that it's a rehab situation and not a surgery situation, and they just want to make sure before they get anyone's hopes up. Like that's what I'm hoping for. But do I think the defense is going to fall off a cliff? No, because we have guys like Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward, Minka, Cam Sutton,
Tyson Alualu,
Tyson Alualu, exactly. Like they're too good to let the loss of one guy push him off a cliff. But yes, it's big. It's huge.
It is, but even looking at the defense yesterday before TJ went down with the injury, like the defense was starting to kind of stutter a little bit because they were on the field so much. It was like they did not struggle at the end of the game solely because they lost TJ. They were struggling because the offense could not maintain possession of the ball, and they just had to keep bailing them out. And at a certain point, this has become the MO for the Steelers. Like, we are so familiar with this narrative and this storyline because it's what's happened for the past 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
The offense can't hold on to the ball. The elite defense, I mean, they've become elite over the last couple years, but like they've had the edge on the offense for the better part of the last 4 years. Yeah. And they have had to continue to just keep going back out onto the field, forcing stops, forcing turnovers. And the more that burden falls on them, the less likely they are to actually come through because they're just gassed. They're so exhausted. And that's what we saw yesterday. Like, again, Morgan, you said with the injuries, like they're probably, we're speculating, but more than likely there wouldn't have been so many injuries if the offense could have just held onto the ball, secured the victory, because that should have been a blowout. With the amount of turnovers, with what the defense did early on in the game, it should have been a blowout. And it wasn't, because the offense just could not hold up their end of the bargain.
No.
And
it was such a roller coaster of emotion. Like, I've never felt I felt like manic and then depressive. Like, it was the most overly stimulating mentally and emotionally game that I've ever experienced.
In one game.
Yes.
Just took
all the highs, all the lows.
The stress of an entire season.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And it's like we should be we witness this a lot. Like, we see games like that a lot, and I tweeted this yesterday, it was the most painful win I've ever experienced as a Steelers fan, and I think a lot of people share that notion, because it's just, we had an episode last year called "When a Win Doesn't Feel Like a Win," and this certainly didn't feel like a win, and it should have. They're the reigning AFC champs. They went to the Super Bowl. Both of the Super Bowl teams last year lost this week, and I thought that our win is in the first half. I thought it was going to be as convincing as the Bills win. I really genuinely, it looked like it would be, right?
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's just, I don't have the words for it. I keep stuttering over my words because it's just I'm triggered.
It was bad. It was really bad. And it obviously, you're always happy when your team wins in a certain capacity, but and we mentioned officiating. The officiating was just garbage yesterday. Like, it felt like there were ass trash certified.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many plays that happened when the Steelers were on offense that could have been called based on what the standard that the officials had set for themselves. Didn't call anything.
Right.
Can we
when
talk
the
about
Bengals had the ball,
O-line? His O-line was holding like
all
Jack
the
and
damn
Rose
time
on the Titanic. Like, I can't. What was that? I looked at Jared and I was like, are they just not calling holding on Cincinnati? He's like, Morgan, you can't blame the refs. I'm like, bitch, yes, I can.
Because it's not blaming. It's calling them out for shitty officiating. It's not like, we still won that game despite the officials, but they did a really poor job of officiating that game consistently, officiating it well. It was just bad. Like, those late hits that they called on Minka. What? Like, what? The
unnecessary roughness, those calls, that was a joke. That was a joke.
It was bad.
And I'll be unbiased and I'll say that touchdown, that wasn't a touchdown when Jamar Chase was on the line. I mean, that was a touchdown.
It was close.
But Cincinnati should have challenged it, and they didn't. And
they didn't.
It was a challengeable play, so that's on them more so than on the refs.
Yeah.
But
like my brother said, he got so worked up yesterday. He was like, "No, it's not a touchdown. The pellets, the black was on the white. The black was on the white." And we were like, "What?" But yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, you're right. It was so close, and Cincinnati did kind of shoot themselves in the foot a couple times there. Like, punting, why didn't they run out the clock there at the end? Like, they absolutely could have, but they didn't. And they did as much as they could to lose that game, just like we did. It felt like both teams were trying their hardest to lose that game, and that was what made it unwatchable. It was like, oh my God, this is like last year, the game against Detroit. That, to me, felt like one of the worst games I had watched up to that point. But this one came close. It came very, very close. Because it was bad. It was so bad. My God. But like, yeah, let's just take a second. Let's take a second to regroup and focus on some of the positives, which we've already mentioned, some of them. Like Devin Bush, he had a really solid game. Chase Claypool, not only did he make a couple of great catches, but his blocking, his wherewithal, general awareness on the line, incredible. Jaylen Warren, even, he laid out when he was in the game. He looked fantastic. Alex Highsmith was great. Cam Sutton was great. Obviously, Minka, game of his life. Like there were a good number of positives despite the way that the Steelers played overall. Sam, what was the thing that was most exciting to you that maybe looking forward it could be the sign of bigger things to come?
I think, last week we talked about the secondary, like what's going to happen with Joe Hayden gone. Is somebody going to emerge? Are they going to be like a true starting cornerback? And yes. Like, so I don't know. I feel better because we know what it's like to have a horrible secondary. We're not good at drafting players that play those positions well at all. So if there's a little bit of hope to be like, okay, well, I got to focus on something positive. I have that right now.
Yeah, that's not nothing because our secondary historically has been terrible.
Yeah, Devin Bush is trending up, which I didn't know. Like, I've just been wanting to be like, okay, give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, that was a horrendous injury. I can't imagine trying to get back on a field and play physical after something like that. So I'm really hoping that, maybe he got out of that mental space and he's trending up. So that's the positives.
Yeah. Morgan, what about you? What was something that really stood out to you yesterday?
I mean, it's so tough to pick something if we're talking about defense because there was so much to be really, really excited about and really happy about. The turnovers alone. I mean, to force those turnovers against a Joe Burrow offense, the AFC North champ offense, the Super Bowl team offense, like Jamar Chase, it's endless. The defense did so much good, but I have to, because the media is not doing it, I have to talk about Deontay Johnson. I just think that he showed a lot of physicality, and we know that that's something that he lacks. We know that's been a weakness of his for quite some time. He kind of shies away from contact, and he doesn't really, make the contested catches like he's capable of, and he should. He also doesn't get a ton of separation naturally, and so it's really, really nice to see him make that amazing one-handed grab, stay in bounds for that huge gain. That was the highlight by far on that offense, on the offensive side of the ball yesterday. And I just can't say enough about the growth that I've seen in that wide receiver group that we've maintained. So Deontay and Chase, both of them just showed a lot of maturity and a lot of growth. And I believe it when they say that they put in a lot of work in the off season. It did show yesterday. They didn't get a lot of opportunity. So, maybe it'll be a lot more. Is that Lilo and Ragnar?
No.
What was that? Oh, is it
That's
Phoebe?
Phoebe. Yeah, we can have Eddie cut this out. My God, I don't know who is trying to get into. It's probably one of my neighbors who forgot their key.
No, you're fine.
Fuck you. All right. Yeah, Eddie, just cut this out. There we go.
I was just saying it's just really nice to see them, do their thing. And I think when the line starts gelling and maybe Mitch settles in a little bit and maybe, we have an offensive showing that's more than, Pee-wee football. They'll get the opportunity to really prove that a little bit more than they did yesterday. But those flashes gave me a lot of hope as far as the wide receiver group goes. I wish George Pickens would have been able to do more. Granted, what can you do with an overthrow and what can you do with an underthrow? Not much. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, there were some encouraging things in the wide receiver room. Honestly, the defense against the run, that was the thing that was most encouraging to me, because that was going into this season like, oh my God, especially with Devin Bush. I was just like, oh God. And starting off trying to stop Joe Mixon, that made me really nervous. But they held him to an average of 3 yards per carry. Like even after TJ was out of the game, like that front seven did a really good job maintaining and holding him off. And that's good. And again, it's just like, that game felt like a gut punch. So it doesn't feel that good, but there are definitely things to, I don't know, be more positive about. But
there are things to be proud of. We don't have to come out like celebrating and be super happy today, but there are a lot of things, to be honest with you, to be proud of. So like, hold on to that, guys, and let's carry that into next week, because it's not stopping. It was week 1, so
yeah, and we're going into week 2. Steelers are hosting the Patriots at home, and this is the first time they're playing the Patriots without Tom Brady. So that's something, but they still have Bill Belichick. So there's that. And you just never know what you're going to get with a Bill Belichick team. And they didn't look great in week 1. So that it's more than likely going to be that they're coming into whatever the fuck it's called now, Heinz Field, with something to prove and a chip on their shoulder. And the Steelers are going to have to really double down and be ready. And they're going to have to take advantage of the Patriots defense where they're weak. But the one really good thing is that all 3 of us are going to be at this game. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to be at the tailgate. I cannot wait to see both of you.
Guys, come see us. We will be at the Stiller Gang tailgate in Red Lot 5A. And we would love to see all of you. Come say hi. Come have a drink with us.
There's absolutely no chance we are there at 8 a.m. when it starts. So you guys are aware.
Yes, we will be late. We will be late per usual.
But that's okay. You can be late too. It's fine.
Yes. We'll all show up at 10. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's still plenty of time to hang out and get ready for this game, because it's going to be...
Maybe we'll hold group therapy in person.
Yes.
Prior to the game. Perfect.
Oh my God, we might need it. We might need to just gear up. God have
Depending
mercy.
on the news that comes out on TJ tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, we might need some serious group therapy in Pittsburgh this weekend.
Somebody bring me a stretcher.
We're going to need to pull all the stops. Like, my God. Yeah, but we'll be there. We hope to see you there. It's going to be, at least before the game, it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. All bets are off when the first kick happens, because God have mercy, this team. Lord, well, you know what? Let's call it. That's a wrap on episode 2, season 2 of Yinzhers. Thank you all so much for the support. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Yinzhers, and don't forget to subscribe, whether it's on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, so we can kick it every single week. We drop new episodes every Tuesday. We will see you next Tuesday for another episode of Yinzhers.